Greetings, everyone. Today we will discuss where the turbulent period we are experiencing is leading, according to the Virgin Mary. Looking back, it's clear that since 2020, the world has been in a time of great upheaval. Things have not calmed down. Rather, a special period began at that time. Our Lady gave Father Gobbi clues about this period and its ultimate outcome. We want to share with you what likely began in 2020, where it is leading, and when this process will be complete. Please subscribe to this channel and activate the bell. Information on how to support our mission through Patreon and YouTube is on the screen. This Catholic team from the Americas relies on your support to continue this research, which you won't find elsewhere. In 2024, the Church began the process of beatification for Father Gobbi, naming him Servant of God. Father Stefano Gobbi, who died in 2011, was an extraordinary mystic of great humility. A theologian and founder of the Marian priestly movement, he received revelations from the Virgin Mary from 1972 to 1997, totaling nearly 600 messages compiled in the Blue Book. On December 31st, 1992, Our Lady told Father Gobbi that she had repeatedly announced the end of time and the coming of Jesus in glory. This return refers not to the second physical coming of Christ, but to an extraordinary manifestation of his power to establish the kingdom of the divine will on earth, as we pray in the Lord's Prayer. The Virgin Mary said she wanted to help us understand the signs described in the Gospels and the epistles of St. Peter and St. Paul, which are now appearing. She pointed out 5 signs that are already evident. The first sign of the end of this era is the spread of errors leading to loss of faith and apostasy. These errors are spread by false teachers and theologians who no longer teach the Gospel's truths, but instead pernicious heresies based on human reasoning. This teaching of errors is causing the true faith to be lost and a great apostasy to spread everywhere, according to the Virgin Mary. The second sign is the outbreak of wars and fratricidal struggles, where violence and hatred prevail, along with a general weakening of charity. This includes natural catastrophes such as epidemics, famines, floods, and earthquakes. The third sign is the bloody persecution of those who remain faithful to Jesus and his gospel, and who remain firm in the true faith. During this time, the gospel will be preached in all parts of the world. The fourth sign is the sacrilege committed by the Antichrist, who opposes Christ. He will enter the holy temple of God, sit on his throne, and be worshipped as God. The sacrifice of the Mass renews what Jesus performed on Calvary. However, by accepting Protestant doctrine, people will maintain that the Mass is not a sacrifice, but only a sacred meal, a memory of what Jesus did at his Last Supper. The celebration of the Holy Mass will be suppressed. This abolition of the daily sacrifice is the horrible sacrilege committed by the Antichrist, which will last about 3.5 years. The fifth sign consists of extraordinary phenomena in the heavens, such as the miracle of the sun at Fatima on October 13, 1917. This miracle, she said, was meant to show them that they were entering the times when these events would occur. She stated that since 1917, heaven has been communicating that the final battle was coming. On December 31st, 1983, The Virgin told Father Gobbi that the signs the Lord had been sending and the dangers her father, John Paul II, pointed out had not been understood. The Virgin said the Pope identified the coming storm, but they did not believe him. Then came 2020 with two unprecedented events: a pandemic forcing global lockdowns by civil authorities and the global suspension of public masses by religious authorities. This unprecedented milestone indicates the beginning of purification. An important message from the Virgin to Father Gobbi suggests that this began in 2020. On September 18, 1988, she asked that everyone in the world consecrate themselves, in the time remaining in the 20th century, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the Sacred Heart of Jesus. She also mentioned a period of 10 important and decisive years related to purification and the fulfillment of prophecies, saying, "These are 10 very important years. These are 10 decisive years. I ask you to spend them with me because you are entering the final period of the Second Advent that leads you to the triumph of my Immaculate Heart with the glorious coming of my Son Jesus. In this period of 10 years, the fullness of the time that was pointed out to you by me will be fulfilled, starting from La Salette until my last and present apparitions." This means Our Lady told Father Gobbi that this 10-year period would see the culmination of purification. We must consider what happened in 2020, the unprecedented pandemic lockdowns and the closure of churches and public masses. The Virgin also told Father Gobbi that these things required our prayers to happen. To pray properly, we must understand God's plans. If we have interpreted the messages correctly, and if the messages are true, then we have about 10 years, counted from 2020, for the process of humanity's purification to be completed, culminating in the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. This date providentially coincides with the fulfillment of the 2,000 years since the death and resurrection of Jesus, which, according to tradition, would be in 2033. Our mission, meanwhile, according to the Virgin, is to proclaim divine mercy, live in the divine will, and spread the kingdom of Christ on earth. We have discussed the signs indicating that the critical period of tribulation and purification of humanity would be 10 years and would have begun in 2020. If you liked this analysis, please like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment. Do you think the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary will occur in 2030 or 2033, before or after?